Oh shit, let's go live. We are live. It's Compress It Like an Idiot. Hello everyone, welcome to Compress It Like...
Let's go live.
Oh, someone's got the stream up and creating a... Who was that?
We are live. It's Compress It Like an Idiot. Hello everyone.
Everyone close the stream. Thanks. It's Compress It Like an Idiot. We're live. How are you guys doing? Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm all right, thank you.
How's everyone been doing? What have you been up to? Been up to anything much? I know Gus has been up to some stuff. We were talking about it the other night. Maybe it's a secret.
I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't been told one way or the other, so I guess it is. Yes, I've been busy with stuff.
Okay, you've got something coming soon, haven't you?
In the pipes.
Yeah, good. I'm sure we'll all look forward to that. Yeah, anyone else? We're still expecting a few more people to turn up, but yeah. Anyone else been busy with anything interesting?
I've been trying, I think my brain is falling apart, but I'm trying to build this thing using Max for Live devices in Ableton, but something that allows me to do generative music, but an actual entire arrangement with different sections, A and B sections and intros and outros, and I want to generate it all. I want to do the ultimate thing where I press a button and I get an entire track. And it's going a bit so-so at the moment.
An entire track in Max for Live?
Well, no, it will be in Ableton, but I'm using Max for Live devices to be able to do it. So I have to sort of build little tools to allow me to do the things that I need to.
All right. Very
I've
interesting.
been using drum breaks as IRs and convolution reverbs. That's been interesting.
Drum breaks as an impulse response.
Yeah.
This is good stuff. Everyone's busy with good stuff. Alan, what about you? You've just been on holiday.
I have, yeah. I spent quite a bit of time actually hacking apart your Max patch for the video synth, and I've learned a bit from it, but I'm still pretty clueless. So sort of keen to sort of learn a bit more today. So there'll be loads of questions from me, guaranteed.
Okay, good. Well, so that's a good segue into me explaining what this is going to be about. We're going to look at ways to interface Max MSP with the Eurorack modular format, courtesy of the Expert Sleepers ES8 DC coupled audio interface. Other audio interfaces are also available. And so if anyone has, I basically don't have any ideas for what I'm going to do. I'm going to riff it out. I've got a couple of things I might try. I'm going to make a basic clock so that I can clock the modular to Max. And then I thought I might maybe try and make some sample and hold things or some random CV generators and use that to like wiggle around something like the Basimilus or something, all from Max, and then send the audio back in, which hopefully we'll all be able to hear. If anyone in the chat has any questions, I will do my best. Metafunction is there. He was going to join in the chat, but unfortunately I think he's got Zoom problems, which is a real shame because he is also a Max certified trainer, and I was hoping that he would be my backup if I get stuck. He would be able to jump in and go, do that, connect that to that, do that, no, do that. But maybe you can still do that in the chat. But yeah, if anyone's watching and they've got any questions, then throw them in, and I will do my best to answer it. And indeed, perhaps we all will. So yeah. Shall I get started?
Yes.
Okay.
Go for it, man.
All right. So I'm slightly nervous because I've never done this before. And it might all go terribly wrong. So basically, over here... Oh, I was going to switch my... Sorry, let me switch my camera to the modular camera. There it is. So, okay, let's see if this works. Maybe you can see Max and you can see my modular. I can see maybe that looks like it's going to be possible. So, the first thing I need to make sure in my audio status is that I've got the ES8 enabled as my audio interface. Essentially, I'm going to use Max as a kind of sort of auxiliary Eurorack module. And I'm going to I'm going to design signals and I'm going to send them out via the DC coupled outputs of the ES8 to control Eurorack modules. And perhaps even send some signals back in to use them in something in Max. We'll get to that later. So
you should use Zoom as your input and then sample from the Zoom call.
Sample what from the Zoom call? Oh, what you mean? Like use? That's a good idea. So if Phil, who's got an ES9,
Yeah.
you could send signals down Zoom, and I could get them into Max here. And send them. All right, this is already way too complicated. Let's keep that on the shelf for later on. So
I'll just patch something up while you keep going.
Okay, all right. So the first place I'm going to start with, so I'm going to make a clock. I'm going to make a very, very basic clock with like a 16th note like clock with a 1 bar reset. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to start with phaser. Phaser is a ramp that goes from 0 to 1 at a specified frequency. So if I gave it the frequency of 1 hertz, that is ramping now from 0 to 1. Phaser, good old phaser. So that's currently working at sort of, we can go up to audio rate like this. Now we're at like 400 hertz and it looks pretty, but actually, no, we don't want that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to go 1N, which is a bar in kind of Max timing syntax language. And I'm going to say at lock 1 to lock it to the transport. So when I start the transport, I'm going to get a ramp from 0 to 1 at the tempo of the transport. Haven't created a transport yet, so I'm going to do that now. Let's zoom in a bit. So I'll create a transport and I'll say at tempo 120. Okay. And I can turn the transport on and off like this. And now that phaser is ramping from 0 to 1 at for 1 bar at 120 BPM. And I think if I want to reset it, maybe I'll do a message 000, and then maybe that might reset the transport. And then when it starts, it will start from 0 again. Yep, all right. So that's going to kind of be the backbone of our clock. Now, I could take a second phaser and have that going at 16th notes locked. And so have 2 phases, one to do the 16th note pulse and one to do the reset. But I thought that was a little bit too straightforward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use rate, which can multiply or divide the ramp of a phaser at a specified division. Thing is, I have to do some maths, and I do know the maths, but I've forgotten it. So I need to divide 1 by 16 in order to get the division of 1 to set the rate. So if I say divide 1 by 16, I get 0.0625. So if I tell rate to go at 0.0625 and enable the sync to lock at lock, we can take that phaser and convert it down to like a 16th note version of itself. The nice thing about rate is that you could kind of do that dynamically. We could say dynamically multiply by half or multiply by 2 or divide by 2 or whatever. So it's kind of like a clock. Think of it as like a clock divider. All right, so we've got a 16th note ramp and a 1 bar ramp, but we need to turn those into sort of pulses. So let's start with the reset. I'm going to do less than, let's say 0.1. So when the ramp signal is less than 0.1, we're going to get a 1. So you can see it's high and then it's low, which is quite nice. Although the pulse width is maybe a little large. So we could make that smaller. Let's make that 0.01. Okay, so now we've got a slightly smaller pulse width. That's actually maybe too small. Let's try 0.05. Okay, we got a fairly decent sized pulse width there. We can do the same thing for the 16th note. So I'm going to just copy that, put that in there. And now we've got some 16th note pulses. And indeed, we can make those a little bit bigger if we want by just adjusting the threshold. All right, so we've got a 16th note clock, 16th note pulse, and a reset pulse. So let's get that into the modular. Yeah, let's do that now. So I'm going to get, I'm going to create a digital audio converter. Now I've got 8 outputs on the Expert Sleepers ES8. So if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I've now got access to those 8 outputs. So I'll use the reset clock to output 1, and I'll take the 16th note pulse to output 2. So if you look, I don't know how this is going to look on my webcam, but maybe if I just stop share a second. If you look here, we've got a pulse there for the reset, and we've got a 16th note pulse there for our clock. So already I can use that to clock the varigate. I'm going to clock the varigate with that. So I'll take the reset and go into the reset on the varigate, and then I'll take the 16th note clock to the clock in, start the varigate 8, and now that should be synced to max. And whilst I'm here, I'm just going to make a key. Hang on a minute. Key. And I'm just going to pick a key on my keyboard. I'm going to pick the enter key, like just by the number pad. So if I'm just going to plug an integer into that, lock the patch, hit the enter button. So that's key number 3. So if I go cell 3, when the key up button receives the number 3, I can plug that to the transport and turn the transport on and off by hitting the enter button on my keyboard. And then I could reset the transport like that. So that has indeed stopped the varigate. So if I start the transport now, it starts from the beginning. That's it, everyone. That's the show over. Cheers.
The key select, you could essentially turn your entire keyboard into a sort of interface.
Very much so. Yes. Every key has got a number, and then all you need to, you can use that to do all kinds of things when the patch is locked. So, I could have done spacebar, but I'm going to use spacebar a lot. The enter button on here is like a button that I never use and is quite easy, quickly accessible. You can use any button you want. I could also maybe do something along the lines of, so if I do like cell 01, so when cell 3 gets triggered, oh no, why did I do it? Why did I do that? Actually, no. Let's come out of the toggle. Come out of the toggle into the cell 0 and 1. And so when we get a 1 to say that the transport is active, we'll get a bang here. And when we get a 0 to say it's inactive, we get a bang here. So I can use that bang to trigger the reset of the transport. So every time I start and stop the transport, I can rewind it rather than picking up from where I left off, which I think is probably what we all want in a sequencer. So put that over there. So now let's see if that's worked. And yes, that has indeed worked. So now when I hit enter on the keyboard, I can restart and stop the sequencer, the varigate 8, and it will start from the beginning. Okay, so that's that part taken care of. Any questions? Or shall I just keep going?
I have a wild question. It might be too much to do right now, but you can feed a webcam into Max, can't you? So in theory, could you use a video live stream to control your modular synth?
Yes.
Have you tried it?
No, we can try that. Shall we try it right now?
If you dare, go for it.
So So
There's a whole external for like gesture recognition in Max, too.
there is, yeah, and there's also like the I can't remember what it's called. There's like a object for interfacing with game controllers. Forgot what it's called. Perhaps Phelan might know. He's in the chat. He can post it. But yeah, if we wanted to like turn our webcam, into audio data, let's pull in this thing here. So that is, I've got 3 webcams running. So that's the webcam on the Mac. If I put that into a jit.matrix and call it webcam and say, let's have 4 planes at float 32, let's say 100 by 100. Let's see if this has worked. All right, so I've got a very low resolution image there of my webcam. I can put that into, I can use that matrix data now with jit.peak with the same name as the webcam. And then I would need a couple of, well, we can use a couple of phasers. Actually, we can just use one phaser. Let's tell the phaser to go at 3 hertz. Let's multiply. So the phase is going from 0 to 1, but we need to go from 0 to 100 because to match the dimensions of our matrix. So let's multiply that by 100. Let's connect that to that. And let's see if it's doing anything. Nothing at all. Because I perhaps need to bang the matrix. No, I don't need to bang the matrix. It's happening. It's being banged by the texture. Maybe we can... No, that hasn't worked. Okay, everyone, talk amongst yourselves whilst I work this out.
You'll have to scale RGBA values.
What? Say that again?
You'll have to scale RGBA values. That's what metafunction says.
You'll have to scale RGBA values. What? That's what I did by multiplying it by 100.
It is? Okay.
I thought that's multiply scale RGB values. I knew these moments would come.
Would it be easier to try one of the gesture things that John suggested? I played around with that the other day. I'm trying to remember what it's called. Is it one of the standard packages?
I'm going to go into the help file for jit.peak and just steal what's in here. And so we've got, okay. Okay. Is that doing something? Can't really tell. Maybe I need to pack it into put it into a matrix first. Jit.matrix. It's difficult to tell because I can't really hear it, and also it doesn't. Oh yeah, no, it looks like it's doing something. Yeah, okay, all right. So we've got something there. Let's take that and feed that to. Let's have a look at this. Okay, we've got some signal there. It's only on the positive. That's fine. Let's put that to output 3. And now I've got some stuff coming out of the expert sleepers. Let's go into the volt per octave on braids and come out of braids into Rosie.
It's like a poor man's theremin.
Very subtle. Looks like you're looking for ghosts or something.
It's like
I hear dead people.
it's working.
It's the opposite of, what did you say, Radio 1? Oh.
Yeah.
Go for a slower read rate.
Stick a quantizer on it.
I feel like Dr. Emmett Brown right now.
Could you sync the sequencer to your heart rate easily?
Probably if I got some sort of contact mic. I bet you wouldn't need Max to do that. Okay, I'm just going to stop for a second and drink some beer whilst we discuss that cacophonous row I just made.
I'm trying to think of ways that you could actually legitimately use that. Besides it being like that's it's very, very cool. Like just as, but I'm trying to think of like how could you
In a
apply
live,
that?
if you had have a live performance where the audience can actually interact with your instruments without actually touching them, you know, you probably don't want some random audience to go up and use your modular synthesizer, but then they could sort of interact with it if you had a bunch of cameras or something.
What about sending that webcam data similar to what you do, Gus, with MIDI and convert it to MIDI for the visual objects and be able to interact and almost jam your, when you're preparing some visuals for the videos, you could jam out stuff rather than having to keyframe things, which can be a bit tedious. You can almost perform some of your transformations and have them a bit more.
If you do like some extreme, sorry, I'll go back. I'm thinking about how you would do that. So if we took like this data that's coming from the webcam and we do like a very extreme kind of comparison of that with like jit dot greater than or equals to or pass and say at val 0.9 and have a look at that on the way out, then we're probably going to get like incredibly harsh colors. So there's like, you can see that like where there's a lot of white, maybe there's a lot of red. So you would basically have to maybe unpack and repack the colors to get them to, so, you know, that's essentially potentially could be coordinate data for a 3D shape. You could pack that into gen and then do whatever you need to do with that and then send that into jit.gl.mesh, and maybe you could like change the, like transform the you know, the geometry of a mesh by going like this or something. So there are certainly things like that. That was very, very immature what I just did.
Brilliant.
So okay, well that was a good first part of taking on random questions. We've made a webcam CV generator. Everyone give themselves a pat on the back.
How about something to do with tempo? So have a sequence running and then be able to influence the tempo via the that would be interesting.
What, by the webcam?
Yeah.
Huh.
I guess we would probably need to analyze the frequencies, which is indeed possible. All right, talk amongst yourselves whilst I think about that.
That's what you were saying, Alan, about controlling the visuals. That definitely is something that would be interesting to me, but I think I would prefer to go like the direction of like a Wii controller or something like that. But either way, like just the idea of it has it's because I was thinking the other day that I should get a MIDI controller or something. That way I can actually, you know, control the visuals live to a certain extent and record that data. But after this, like now I'm thinking better than a MIDI controller would be like gamepad controller like Wii or something like that. That's an interesting idea.
I guess you could do it the other way around as well. If you've got modular equipment, you could use any of the interfaces on your modular to control your visuals as well, the other way around. That's something that would definitely be of interest to me.
And it's something that I would really like to do it that way. I'm out of space and CV on my case. But that's definitely, like, I think ultimately I would prefer to control the visuals with CV than MIDI.
Yeah, probably a bit more reliable, a bit more.
He's back.
Probably the latency would be good as well with the CV, because it's,
It's surprising though. I really haven't run into any latency issues so far with the MIDI going from, like Octatrack into Max, which I was surprised by. I would have thought for sure there would be more latency.
I'd be interested to get maybe a future video. I know you did an excellent video recently on your modular rig. I'd be really interested in seeing how you're controlling your visuals. I know you're big into the MIDI side of things as well, and that's, from my perspective at the moment, I've done some very basic things influencing 3D objects. I'm trying to get to the next level now, but some of the things that you just mentioned there, what's the appropriate way to control that? Because I think keyframing, obviously through Ableton, using just automation, just feels like not so much fun to do. You can sit and do that and it works, but something that was a bit more hands-on would be great.
It's interesting. What I'm working on is I was experimenting a little bit with keyframing, and it really is, it's very tedious to do it after the fact, because you have to go through, listen to the sound, then go back to the automation, listen to the sound, then go back to the automation. Whereas with, doing it on the fly, controlling stuff with the Octatrack, then it's more like you're dealing with pretty granular pieces right from the get-go. It's just like, okay, here's this sample, let me match that sound, now we're moving on to this next part. Whereas with keyframing, it's like you have to do that entire thing over again. So I agree with you. Yeah, it's definitely tedious and almost boring.
There's another thing I played around. There's one of the packages, plugins for Max 8 that focuses on the push 2. So maybe using velocity on the keys and be able to assign and be able to sort of almost like finger drumming along to create the information. That might be something worth exploring.
Yeah. Duncan, are you back?
Yes. But I'm stuck in some sort of loop.
We're going to run out of stuff to talk about, mate, and you're going to...
No, not at all. So basically, F0... F0 does real-time pitch detection, which is down here. So with my hand very close to the webcam, we get about 230 hertz, but that's because I'm reading through the JIT.peak rather quick. Well, actually not too quickly, man. So, if I don't clock the phaser that's going out to drive the sequencer at the tempo, and I actually just use the frequency detected by F0, then I could effectively control... That's not worked. I'm just looking at numbers right now, but I don't... I don't think that's worked.
Walk us through what you're trying to do again.
Sorry?
Walk us through what you're trying to do again.
So basically, so the webcam is coming in and being converted to matrix data, which is being read by the JIT.peak here using this phaser. And then I'm detecting the pitch of the sound that's being generated by JIT.peak, and then using that to set the frequency of the phaser, which I'm trying to send out to the modular to drive the frequency of the varigate. And I'm already exhausted explaining that. and it's not worked. But I could certainly, I'm not sure why, but there is some stuff coming out. Might just
don't
be
know.
that it's too fast.
Am I stupid that like it looks like the matrix isn't plugged into anything?
This one here,
Yeah.
that is correct, and that's because I've given. Well, this is from the jit.pk out file,
okay,
so it's got
gotcha.
the name, and then this has the same name. So whatever matrix with that name can be referenced by another object that has the same name.
Got it.
So it's kind of working like a buffer, I suppose. But but we are getting some interesting. If you look at this live scope down here, you can see that when my hand gets closer, we're getting some interesting shapes there. So whilst that was what I was sending to this, wasn't it?
Ned,
Okay.
one of the comments on the thread is about using beep to kick out CV. Is that something might be worth exploring?
I've never used Beep, but we can have a look at it. Beep's got like a quantizer, so we could try and quantize some of this webcam CV data. And I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit because this is getting quite big. So let's maybe just move some of this to one side. I'm ditching that F0 thing. So let's just check we've still got. All right, so if we go to Beep and we go to Quantizer, let's have a look at this quantizer here. So the signal that's coming in, I'm not sure what type of signals Beep is expecting, because I did a little test earlier to see. So for example, if I made like an A audio digital converter for input 1 on the ES8, and I connected like something like this IntelliGel Triad, which is like a attenuverter and a mixer, attenuator and attenuverter, but it also sends out constant voltages even though there's nothing plugged into it. If I took the output of that output A into input 1 and then used like a number thing here, we could actually sort of work out what kind of ranges we're working in. So if I turn this sort of down, we're going from like -0.9 to 0.9. So that is what I was expecting. If we just go plus only, then we're going from roughly 0 to roughly 9. So I was expecting the ranges of signals to be between -1 and 1. But I don't know how well that translates to voltages, because this is sending out 1 volt per octave. So I don't know if that means 1 volt per octave from -1 to 1. Because some of these modules go from like -5 volts to 5 volts, or -10 volts. This is where I get a little bit confused. But fuck it, let's just see what happens. Let's take, yes, so this is our webcam thing. Yeah, the beep's not really responding. Try and patch into the DAC. What, straight from the beep quantizer? Let's see if what that's gonna do. I mean, it's definitely some of the best music I've ever made in my life, for sure. I can't tell if this quantizer is doing anything though. Envelopes are 0 to 1. Hello. Let's maybe slew some of that data a little bit. Let's use the slide let's say slide by, I think it's in samples. Let's have a look at what we get on the way out. No, not a huge amount. Let's try 1,000. Slide up by 1,000 samples, slide down by 1,000 samples. Okay, so that's slightly more smooth now. Okay. So
This is going well.
I mean, it's clearly the most exciting thing happening on the internet right now. All right, yeah, no, I'm gonna have another little break. Anyone else?
Can
Got any
you
comments?
can you take that break to actually go over what's happening in the patch at this point from square one? So like what's happening at this point? And
Well-
what's the problem?
Well, okay, so the I've disregarded the whole clock thing, and so let's have a think about what's going on here. So this is our output to the Expert Sleepers ES8. The webcam is coming in via this, and you don't need to use that. You can use jit.grab if you want to just, take up less space. I've converted that, the grabber sends out a texture. I've converted that to a matrix, and then I've packed that matrix into another matrix, which is called bar, which I lifted from the jit.peak help file. So everything that's in that matrix is now also accessible via this jit.peak here. This phaser, I'm not sure. Yeah, so this reads the X coordinates of the matrix, and this reads the Y coordinates of the matrix. You can see that this is a ramp. The phaser is a ramp going from 0 to 1. But we've multiplied it by the dimensions of the matrix, which is 320 on the X axis. I'm not too sure why they've not done that on this. And it's only reading the second plane. Anyway, that's by the by. So that is going into jit.peak, which is essentially taking that matrix data and converting it to an audio signal based around how fast the phaser reads through the data. So it's kind of like a table. You could kind of think of it as like a table. And so because I'm dynamically changing the contents of the matrix data by moving my hand around the webcam, we're going to get a change in the data, in the contents of the matrix, and thus we're going to get a different sound. And then so actually, I'm just going to disconnect that quantizer for now. And then I've sort of slewed that data. In fact, we could slew it even more, let's say by, oh my goodness me.
While you're doing
my
that, can I ask a super stupid question, not knowing Max for Live that well? The matrix, is that basically like an array of different values? Like one would be the red and one would be the green and one would be the blue. Is that what the matrix consists of, or what is the matrix? Everyone is frozen.
You've stumped him. Actually, looks like he's frozen.
Is he in the matrix?
There's definitely there's a Matrix joke in here somewhere that I'm struggling to find it.
At least it froze on him making a dumb face.
That's awesome.
In the meantime, maybe you guys could tell me what does the matrix do in Max?
I have no idea. I still don't I was actually just talking with Duncan the other probably a week or so ago. I still can't quite wrap my head around what a matrix is really. And I want to say that Duncan said the best way to explain it is it's Excel spreadsheets stacked on top of each other. So you have numbers across, down, in, and out.
But
There
it's
he is.
it's just a repository of data, right? That you can fill with stuff. So in this case, what Duncan, you're back. What's the matrix full
Sorry.
of? Is it the different color values, or what's
Yeah,
in the matrix?
RGBA values, right?
Oh, okay.
Red, green, blue, and then your alpha. Yeah, a jitter matrix is the RGA values of the pixels. So each pixel, right, has a red, green, blue, and then an alpha, which is the transparency of that pixel, right? So that's why when we have a 4-dimensional array, right, each point is described by one of those 4 dimensions.
So this patch, is that doing something where it just takes all the data and just creates an average, and that's what's then sent to the modular? Out of like, so when you make it really dark, covering it with your whole hand, the average will be something compared to when it's very bright.
I missed quite a substantial amount of that conversation because my internet connection screwed up. And are we still streaming? Is it still live? I'm guessing it is.
I think
Yeah,
so.
it looks fine.
It looks like it.
So the way I think about a matrix is that, like, imagine you got a load of Excel files open all at the same time.
Yeah.
You've got an Excel file here, and then there's another one behind it, and another one behind it, and another one behind it. Or you can visualize it whichever way you want.
Is it a 3-dimensional array? Does that make anything?
Array.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
It's a 3-dimensional. I mean, it can be
Okay.
more.
Well, it's a
than
4-dimensional
that.
array, but
It can be a lot more. So in simple terms, like for video, you would think that the first, you think of it as planes,
Yeah.
which could be like 4 Excel spreadsheets open on top of each other. The first plane is the red,
Yeah.
then green, then blue, and then transparency or alpha.
And do you have that per pixel, or is it an average for the whole?
It's the sum.
Okay.
So if you've got a matrix of 10 by 10,
Yeah.
and in cell 1 you've got the red plane that has the number 0.5, the green plane that has 0.5, and the blue plane that has 0.5, that pixel is going to be grey because the sum of that is going to add up to grey.
But if you have a webcam,
average.
a webcam with, you know, however wide and however tall it is, what are you sending to the modular? Are you just like taking the average of all the pixels that's being put through?
Well, so basically the best way probably to answer that is to look at the help file for jit.peak. So the jit.peak is basically reading through all of the data that's in the matrix. Let's have a look. I'm sorry if it's a little bit small. Maybe I can go a bit bigger. Jit.peak reads the value of one plane of a matrix cell at the position specified by the signal input. This value is output as a signal, the object note. So this is reading plane 2, which I think would be the green RG. That would be the green plane of this matrix. So this is a movie file that's piping into this matrix, which has got 4 planes: a red plane, a green plane, a blue plane, and the alpha plane. But this jit.peak is reading the data that's on the green plane.
But is it a particular pixel that it's reading, or is it?
Well, so basically, how the phaser here is reading through the contents of the x-axis of that table.
Yeah.
At 3 hertz. So it's reading through all the numbers in that table at 3
over and
hertz.
over again.
Over and over again, round and round. So it's just going like that. And so as the contents of that table changes because the pixels move or something like that, we're going to get like a change in the sound. If we had a static image, in fact, if
I was about to ask, can we use the Mona Lisa and then use that as our sequence?
We can try. Let me just download the Mona Lisa.
And then that could be the sequence that it loops through. That will be the next Turing machine, fine art sequencing.
All right, am I going to get done for copyright?
No.
It's Mona Lisa, isn't it? Right.
Who owns the copyright of Mona Lisa?
I guess whichever.
But it doesn't that like expire after a while in the same way that classical music does?
According to Wikipedia, Mona Lisa is in the public domain and free to be exploited.
That's not very well worded, is it? Right, so right, let's. Oh, I don't want to.
Okay,
GP window. Okay, so let's see.
I wonder if it might be, and I wonder if it might be easier to see if we just did like black and white.
I think it's fine. I mean, basically, this matrix now should have the Mona Lisa in it.
And just imagine that her mysterious smile, we might find the answer coming out of your modular now.
See,
I think I know the answer to her mysterious smile, personally.
Is that what we're hearing right now? Her mysterious smile. The slew is a bit much.
I think we can say with some certainty that this is the first time that the Mona Lisa has been plugged into a modular synthesizer.
How many planes are there? There's 4 planes.
There are 4 in this current matrix. There are 4 planes. Yeah.
So there wouldn't be any alpha in the Mona Lisa, I don't think.
Is there any like discernible difference if you were to switch? So we heard what it sounds like on plane 2. What does it sound like if it's on plane 1?
Okay, let's listen. So
this is going to be a new way of finding out if art is real or forged. You can play the sequence of the real artwork.
It's a sonic fingerprint.
I'm not really too sure what's real and what's what anymore, but so there is a repetitive pattern there. So I'm fairly certain it's reading through the x-axis of the Mona Lisa and giving us this pattern.
Yeah, so switch the plane to like 1 or 3 or.
Is it too much slew still there?
I could take that out.
Can you somehow round that so that becomes a clock instead?
I could do like a sample and hold, or I could
round.
Yes,
of course, yeah.
Could do a sample and hold, or I can round. Round is really cool, actually. There's an object called round. And I could say round to the nearest 0.125, which I think is like an 1/8 of 1. Or we could say 0.625. That's going to round to a 16th. Let's see what that sounds like.
Why don't you send one plane to the pitch you have now, and another plane to the filter?
Ooh, yeah, there you go.
To the filter of what?
Oh, you're in braids, aren't you? So you don't have a filter in. I'll just send it to one of the modulation sources on braids.
All right.
That's such a good idea, Alan.
Thanks,
Let's
man.
take a copy. Excuse me. Let's take a copy of this. This one can read plane 2. Let's send that to output 4. Let's see what we've got here.
In theory, could you let's say you would record all this, and then could you reverse engineer it and recreate the Mona Lisa having been through the modular, turned into sound?
Sure.
If it's a linear sequence, then I guess it would be. If you could detect each pixel iteration.
And then you just plot the pixels back, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically how the internet used to work, right? Remember all the tones and the dial-up?
Oh, yes. It's gone quiet.
It would be an incredibly inefficient way to transmit data, but
I have this dream of getting a knitting machine and convert a song into a scarf. And in theory, I should be able to reverse engineer the scarf back into the song again.
Philip, I expect to see that on your Patreon.
Is that a Max for Live device?
Wait a second. What if we ended up going through and doing all 4 planes and we started hearing a woman speaking?
Oh, that's
Yeah, that's some weird sort of Illuminati conspiracy stuff going on there. Right?
There we go. This is what the Mona Lisa sounds like when she speaks.
Alvin and the Chipmunks.
she's gone quiet.
We go for a really slow frequency.
This is some niche stuff right there. Like, thanks for the 22 people watching.
Duncan, I have a question about this.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
it's constantly reading through the planes around and around and around. Is
Yes.
it reading through the planes? Like, does it need to be reset? Like, is it reading through at the same time, or is one? Like, I'm trying to visualize how this is happening. So
The so this JIT.peak here is reading plane 1,
yep.
which I guess would be the red,
Mhm.
and it's reading through that at 0.27 hertz from 0 to 1 and going back round. We don't need to read from 0 to 1. We can use any like oscillator we want. We could use cycle, which will go from -1 to. We'd have to scale it from 0 to 1. So rather than it going from 0 to 1 and then back round again, it will come back down like a sine.
Could we make an image that is literally 16 pixels wide or something, just to easily just hear the pattern looping?
So if I did a JIT.noise and I said, let's say 4 planes, char data, let's do 8 by 8. Let's leave the Mona Lisa here anyway, just because it's nice to see her, I think. So that's a table of noise data, and that's all going to be going from, I think, 0 to 1. So I can put that now into our matrix. And now we've got, so now that's the noise data. Go for a different sound.
Can you do like 4x4? Because 8x8 is still 64, right?
Because if they would literally be just black and white, you could make that into like interesting rhythmical pulses by just.
If I do one plane, then that'll just be black and white. I can't tell if this is working.
I
It's
wanted
not black
to
and white,
ask,
though, is it?
At this
Sorry.
point, are you essentially just all you're actually doing is sending 2 noise sources to braids, right? Whether it's the Mona Lisa or not, ultimately it's just 2 noise sources modulating it. Is that fair to say or no?
Yeah. So basically, if you look at these 2 live scopes down here, this one is reading the pixel data on plane number 1. This is reading it on plane number 2. This data, although I have slewed it a bit, so actually let's actually see. So this is a slightly more accurate representation of what's going to braids. The first one is going to the Volca octave, and the second one is going to the timbre modulation input. Yeah, go on.
But how much different, like if you had 2 noise modules in your Eurorack system and sent those 2 noise modules, or maybe that wouldn't even be a good example, a sample of 2 different noise sources that was constantly looping and modulated the braids with that, ultimately it would be the same thing, yeah or no? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I mean, if you had like a sample, if you had let's say you had a sample of a snare,
Mhm.
And you slowed it right down so that it's beneath audio rate. You read through that, you played the sample at something like 0.1 hertz. You're still going to get all the same sample data. It's just going to be way slower. So you could take that and use that as some sort of signal to whatever.
It's basically random data, right? Though, like, I mean, it's the Mona Lisa, right? So there's some, pattern to, R, G, and B, right? But
Well,
like,
but the
it's
reason
a
the reason
fan-
the reason I thought of it is because this 4x4 of black and white, like it doesn't actually really sound any different than what the Mona Lisa did. Like,
No, well,
Yeah.
that was what sort of I was trying to. That's kind of what I was trying to ascertain if there was in
Ned,
fact a pattern.
isn't it 0 to 2? Isn't that going to have a value in it? It's a grayscale value, so it's not like on or off as Philip was talking about. Maybe you want to.
We can actually look at what's in here with a JIT.cell block.
Literally
also,
black and white.
how are you looking at plane 2 if there's only one plane in your matrix?
Oh, good point. Yeah, no, I don't know.
I mean, it's different. It's different data, right? But
So yeah,
So
that's
it's
interesting.
0
I
to
don't know why.
25. It's 0 to 255, isn't it? Which will be an 8-bit number.
I'm just going to switch this to float 32 and see if this makes any difference. Let's say rather than char, let's do float 32. See if this will work. So now we're so basically this this like thing here, this is the contents of this noise matrix here. So this first cell here, which is the same as this one here, that's 0.26 on, it's one plane, so that kind of makes sense. So this one here is 0.85. You can see how that's slightly more white. This one here is 0.19. You can see how that's slightly more dark. So basically the JIT.peak is reading through these numbers
in what direction?
from 0 to 1. Like that.
That would be plane 1. Or is it going those 4, then the next 4 down, then the next 4 down?
Oh, hang on a minute. It's reading plane 1. What's this second argument? I'm going to go back to the help file. Matrix name, dim input count, and plane. Yeah. I've got to be honest, JIT.peak is still a bit of an enigma to me. It just makes noises come out. So,
all right.
Basically, right, we've definitely got a pattern there, yeah?
Yeah.
So now if I bang this noise data, it's going to change.
So we hear one.
Is that 3
2,
blind mice?
It is.
We hear 1, 2. We're hearing 1.
This is my
2,
noise version of 3 blind mice.
We're hearing 1, 2, 3, 4. What 4 numbers on that cell block?
I don't know. I'm guessing it's this. I really don't know.
Why don't you
Because
do 4 by 1 and see what you get
4 by 1 where?
on the noise on the object that you've created noise with?
What, this, like this?
Yeah.
So now we've got 1 dimension on the y-axis and 4 on
That's
the
correct.
x
Yeah.
and 1 on the y. So we've only got 1 row and 4 columns. Let's see what that's done. Let's go a little bit faster.
I wonder if I've sent a couple of images in the chat. One, if we could use that as CV, and the other one as a trigger sequence. I wonder if that would work. It's basically just a one-dimensional image. It's just a row of pixels, and one is just black and white. And if that could be used as a sort of a gate or a trigger, would that
Okay,
work?
give me a second. I'll get them in.
I like the way you think.
And also, can you put a number at the bottom of the JIT.peak so we could
a number at the bottom. Sorry, hang on. Let me just. Okay. Okay. All right. Bear with me, guys. Oh, where have you gone? What's happened to? Where's everyone gone?
We're here.
Oh, there you
We're
are.
here.
Okay, right. All right.
Everything
can you
will be
see?
fine. Yes.
Should we say goodbye to Mona Lisa now?
Why did they get so blurred out? They should be. Have I done something to them?
I mean, that kind of, I can see that's going to make a lot of sense in terms of, okay, let's just.
I don't know why
that.
they came out like that.
No, but that's
have you
okay,
stretched them? Yeah, okay.
Let's go with that. So let's do this first one. Let's pack that, put that into the matrix, see what we get. We've got a little trigger casing.
Yeah.
And can you sample and hold the other one or use that as a melody to change the CV?
Hang on, I just want to see what this second one sounds like. Okay, so this sort of makes sense because, like, on this one's more black and white.
Yeah.
So that means that, like, as it's reading through this data, the more white it is, that's going to be 1, which means you're going to have a higher signal. That would be like gate on.
Oh, that's good to know. I just thought the other way around for some reason. So white is on and black is off. Is that all like low?
Yeah, white would be 1, black would be 0, and grey would be 0.5.
Yeah.
So this second one makes more sense because you've got like a wider range of colours from black to white.
That's what I was thinking. That could be the melody, and the other one I wanted to be the trigger. But I'm wondering, is it blurry because you have stretched it? Because it should be just 16 pixels wide. Oh, have you put 32 in there or something in your? No,
I'm not sure why that is, but it might just. I don't know why that's happened. But this is what you've put on the table.
Can you open that image in the inspector and tell it what dimensions it is?
We can have. Whoops.
Because then it would be an interesting way of doing sequences that you actually have, let's say a 16 by 16 square, but you start off just reading the first line and then you can just jump between the lines to sort of jump between sequences quickly. So you sort of just draw them with a mouse in Paint or whatever.
Yeah.
I think you want to turn off scale to box, don't you?
I'm just going to put these to one side because I could kind of recreate the same thing.
Yeah.
With the JIT.noise. So,
because it would be an interesting way of generating actual sort of trigger sequences random if you use noise, but you just do a one-dimensional image.
Like that?
Yes. Can you do them just literally just black and white, so you just get on and off?
Yeah, so what you would do then is you would do a comparison. So you would do like JIT dot like greater than equals or pass, and then say at val 0.5. So any number that's above 0.5 you get a 1, and anything that's beneath 0.5 you get a 0. So if we bang that now, then we're going to get a random. No, some of them are great. Okay, so
but couldn't you use round? Couldn't you use round or?
There we go.
Oh, there.
So,
yes.
So now we've got a random table of 1s and 0s.
Can you run that as? Could you run that as a trigger sequencer to?
Yeah, so
as a clock or something.
Yeah, so that's coming out of this JIT.peak. So rather than say trigger like modulate braids, we could trigger the bacillus.
And then you could do the grayscale version to send the pitch to the bacillus or something.
Yeah, so then we'd need a second matrix. So let's keep.
And then every time you hit bang, would that just generate a new sequence immediately?
Yeah.
Can I pause for a second?
Yeah.
I was wondering if you can. So the black and white image, can you plug that into a cell box to get the matrix information from it, or does that have to come from?
So there it is.
Okay, so now if you do can you do a number from the peak? Like, in theory, if you did a number coming out of the peak, would the number read 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1?
Well, that's.
Or no?
I think that's what's happening right now. So this display down here
Okay, I see it now.
is the sort of the audio output of the contents of this matrix, and indeed this. So you can see that as it cycles round, we're getting 0, 0, 1. There's a repeating pattern. And then if I bang this, we'll get a different one. Does that answer your question or not?
Yes, it does. Perfect.
You can start start making a Turing machine if you just sort of switch the colors across or something.
Yeah, pretty much. So there's a couple of things we're not using anymore, so let's get rid of this.
What you could do, actually, just to add something to that, you could also use the preset object to be able to, for each time you hit the bang, you'd have a way of going backwards in time as well. So you could create a load of random sequences and then go back through them.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. All right, so now we've got 2 JIT.peaks, one reading the more, binary version of the contents of the JIT.noise with the white pixels as 1, the black pixels as 0, and then a second one, which is reading the sort of just the raw data. So we've got one for our gate, for our trigger, and then a second one for our CV, which could be anything. So that's coming that's going into output 4 on here, which I've got here. So I could maybe put that into the pitch of the dissimilars. They're slightly out of sync. So that's because they're using 2 separate phases.
Yeah.
We can go up to very, very fast audio rates, but let's set them. Let's maybe use the same phaser for. Oh, I fucked it. Let's use the same for both of them. So this one can go at 1N at lock 1. And I deleted the. Oh no, I didn't delete the transport. Okay, let's see if this works. But that's maybe.
And if you hit bang now, you just get a completely new one.
But you're only going to get notes above a certain pitch.
I'm going to do what I did earlier, and I'm going to say make this a 16th. I'm going to go rate 0.0625 at sync lock. Oof. It's not that good, is it? No, I don't need to do that at all. That's because there's just not many gates. There we go. And if it's a little bit too much, then we'll just attenuate it by 0.1 or something. I mean, it's probably 0.5. There we go.
Can you turn the volume up a bit?
So a new sequence now.
And was it easy to use a quantizer on the CV on the?
I would probably use a quantizer in Eurorack.
Yeah.
because they're designed better.
I mean, if we could take the Mona Lisa and quantize her and turn her back into an image, I wonder what she would look like.
Well, we would, I guess we would just lower the resolution. But like the thing is that like this, we could have like separate noises for. So we've got one noise for our. This is already getting really messy. I'm sorry, it's going to have to say goodbye to Mona Lisa. And indeed, actually, this. Let's get rid of that. So I'm going to actually take a second noise and give this a high resolution. So let's give this a really high resolution of say 100 by 1. And then we'll get like less staggered values. So now, oh no, it's just faster. Yeah.
Can you make it sort of even though that's 100, but it's just stepping to the next pixel at the same time, rather than reading through 100 pixels at the same time as 16?
Well, I guess I would just divide the rate at which it's reading through
by the width of the.
So it's reading through. It's reading through a 100. Actually, these are 320. Yeah, what I had planned then didn't work. So I'm just going to go with 5.
Because I was wondering if you could do something that like sample next, and it literally, I don't know.
Get some modulation in there as well.
Well, I mean, like.
Actually, another idea, what might be more interesting, if you take the same sequence and apply a different clock, and then offset the pitch and do 2 channels of sound, two melodies, like a counterpoint, and send one to a different oscillator.
Say that to me again.
So send two pitches based on the single source you have there, but then set the gate pattern different for the second pitch, so you should get a slight overlap.
Huh.
So
I see. Then I could offset the phase of this phaser. So this first phaser is our clock. So if I was to add 0.25 and then modulo by 1, then
what is that? What is modulo?
Modulo is going to wrap. Let's have a look here. Whoops. So
yeah, but mod 1 doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so those phases are a quarter out of phase. So I've added 0.25 to the first phaser, and the modulo wraps it back round. So like without the modulo,
I get it.
That's the modulo is going to go from 0.25 to 1.25, but the modulo it doesn't clip it, it wraps it back round. So now that phaser is 0.5 out of phase with the first one. So we could take another. Oh my god, this is getting so messy.
Does this mean that
is the remainder after division?
Yeah. I mean, I just think of it as like a wrap. It just wraps it. So I could keep adding a number to the phaser, and then how much I add means how much it's going to go out of phase and wrap back round. So
does it mean that is the trigger pattern going to be the same but just delayed now, or is it going to feel like a completely different trigger pattern?
It's going to be offset. So if we look at that now, oh my god, I'm going to have to zoom out a bit. So if we put these like side by side, they're offset by a quarter of the phase.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we can take that and go into a different output, and let's maybe use that output to, I don't know, just go into the morph So I'm just gonna. I don't know if that really does it justice, but
What about a different gate pattern with the second output?
a different gate pattern with this one.
So you want the same melody, but then you'd hold almost like sample and hold certain notes for longer durations. So you'd have like a bass line that moves really slowly, and then the melody line can iterate quite quickly, or vice versa. See what I mean?
Can you just copy? Does that mean just copy and pasting the black and white pattern, so to say, and just have another copy of those, but the source for the melody is the same grayscale one? I don't know if that makes sense.
I mean, it's starting to get quite. I'm starting to get confused because. Oh my god, where's it? What's going on? It's they're all very good ideas.
Slew morph.
More so, I'm gonna go get another beer.
Me too.
Hold the fort whilst I'm gone.
Alan, I just want to talk to you because I think I understand what you're onto, and I tend to do that or try to do that with a sample and hold. So I have using the same melody because then I know that the bass line and the melody is going to work together. But I use different trigger patterns, but I just send the melody into a sample and hold or something. And, and then I'm just grabbing at different points, I grab different pits, and then I send one to something doing bass and one that's doing melody.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
It's a sort of classic modular. So
Yeah.
you can have one sequencer, and then you just have different gate patterns, exactly as you said there.
And then you can just like modify the sequencer super quickly, and the bass line and everything is just still going to play together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that might be, Philip, do you know what you mentioned earlier on about creating different sections of a song?
Yeah.
One way you might be able to achieve that is if you take that concept, but then obviously have a larger LFO that then moves the sequences on. That will create your section. So you could do a verse, bridge, and chorus if you wanted to do something traditional, or something that moves through phases, but it would all be related effectively to the same sequence or the same small amount of data initially. Then from that seed of data, you'll be creating an entire structure of a song.
The thing that I really want to crack now, how I've done that is literally that I've got a sort of a multi-map thing. So I've got different channels. I have set up arrays of different scales and offsets, and then I can just change in one place and it just updates all of them to the same scale. But the thing is that I want the intro not just to feel like another section. What makes an intro sound like an intro? I don't know. That just moving through it, I suppose. I was wondering, like, were you onto something there? If we just because I wanted to feel like you're going through some form of, what's it called? Like, so everything doesn't feel the same, but different, so there is a build up and, like, how do you,
I know what you mean. I think a lot of it's going to be down to the pacing or the envelopes that apply to the sounds as well. So you have something more minimalist that builds more slowly, less gates, and maybe some more action with envelopes. I think what would be really elegant if you did have, though, just literally 8 notes and a source of, well, you'd have sort of several patterns that you would repeat rhythmically, so there's some repeatable structure. But then you create like almost a dynamics layer. Then that will give you the differentiation between, say, an intro, but like a DJ would do. They would break a track down, and they would just bring pieces in, right, over time.
yes,
That could work.
I'm going to crack it. I'm getting closer.
You could probably do something. You could probably simplify the thinking a lot based on some of the stuff we looked at today.
Yes, I like the idea of that. Like, you have those black and white things, so like just a few steps there, and that's the source, and then you just build on that.
The thing I mentioned earlier on, within Max, there's an object that's like a preset thing. So every time you click the bang, it will snapshot what you've got. And then what you will allow you to do, you could do it 5 times, and then you could set the sequence of your. That could almost be your pattern, like your drum machine pattern sequence. So you can go back through sequences, which are all recorded. So they might be like 8 notes or 16 note patterns. It would create a random, like a Turing machine. Then it will go to the next one, but there will be some repeatable back through the sequence again. So it wouldn't be completely random each time.
I think that something like that, if I could do like when I press the button to generate the track, that it's literally go boom, boom, boom. It just generates a bunch of those and puts them in the repository. And then there's some other thing that's like, is it going like intro to an A section into some sort of breakdown and then into a B section? I don't know, like, but it can come up with the arrangement, but it just picks from that what it's just generated, those notes.
And then what you could do in terms of when you create the patterns, that you'd have a layer of like envelopes, but then you could create like almost like a dynamics layer, which would inform the values. So you'd have less, and then you'd have more dynamic. So you could create a. We can do it. Come on, Ned, let's do it, man.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, I was going to say that, like, the thing is with the preset object in Max. Sorry about the noise. I got the window open. The preset object only works with GUI objects. So if you were doing this thing like we were doing with like a matrix, it's not going to store the contents of the matrix. It might, for example, store the contents of like a table, like an I table. Sorry about the noise. It's so hot in here. I've got like so many lights on. Like, you know, if we were using something like a multi-slider or like an I table, which is, these are like both GUI objects, and then we make a preset, and then I say store on preset 1 and then go and store on preset 2, then it's going to switch between those, the contents of those two things in the preset. That's not going to happen with a matrix. But you could import, if you're into the matrix, you know, the pixel sequencer idea, then you could import like a load of images and index through those images in some sort of way, have them kind of like, it's kind of like just working with samples in Max. You would like import the samples, save them as the project, all the samples, like when you do collect all and save in Ableton, it saves all the content of the set in a folder somewhere.
One second though, if you bring up your video sequencer, that's doing exactly what Philip and I are talking about, because you've got 16 different patterns, and then what you're doing is you're randomly iterating through it using the Uzi, aren't you? You create an Uzi which creates a pattern, and you do it 16 times. And then what you're doing is then you're choosing randomly which one of those patterns to play. That would effectively do what we're describing here, because you are storing that. That's basically, it's a series of matrix, but it allows you to be able to recall them.
Yeah, but only sort of like in real time. It wouldn't, the contents of the matrix data wouldn't get stored in the same way if you were using a preset object. If you wanted to generate random sequences and save them as a preset, there are much other like better ways to do that.
I'm fine with that. Actually, like I just want them there in the moment, and then I record it, and then it's gone forever. That's fine.
Well, then, yeah, there are all kinds of ways to generate random data in Max and either store them in the project or not store them at all, and they're totally momentarily.
Can I ask a question? Okay, so back to the Max patch, you have a picture of black and white images, so it's effectively on and off for kick and snare. You have one of those gates triggering the kick drum, and then you basically duplicated that and offset it a little bit. Am I correct so far? You offset it a little bit, so it's still the same pattern. It's just one is happening a little bit before or a little bit after the other.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Could you take the webcam data and clip it so it's either black and white. So it's all the pixel information coming in, but it's always going to be, clip it off so it's always black or white, and then run your hand across. So you would have kick or snare depending on where your hand is. Does that make sense? So basically, rather than having this static black and white image, you're taking the webcam, clipping it, and turning the webcam into a black and white image.
Okay, this might take me a little while. I'm going to need to choose the right. Where's the open message? There it is. I don't know which camera it's going to use. Let's see. Okay, it's using the MacBook. So we could do
Probably reduce the resolution loads as well, so it becomes super pixelated.
Yeah, good idea. All right, so let's do so let's say at dim, what, 16 by 16?
Yeah.
Or even 16 by 1.
Yeah. And make it absolutely just black and white, not grayscale, and then we'll see when you put your hand up and see what happens.
Why hasn't that worked? Oh, okay. All right. You know what? I've changed my mind. No, the better way to do this would be to do it in a matrix. So I need to enable this again, and then I'm going to make a matrix, and I'm going to say, I'm going to say 4 planes, float 32 at dim 16 by 1. And now, yeah, so now we've got so I'm moving my hand. We could do like a comparison here. Oh, hang on. So as my hand is closer, all right, can you see that?
Perfect. Make it black and white.
So to make it black and white, I think we can either just have one plane, but then I think that's only going to give us the red plane. Or nothing at all. So actually, let's try RGB to...
Which
RGB
plane
to
is the
Luma.
alpha channel, Ned? Is it the first channel or is it the last one?
In a matrix, the alpha channel is the last plane. Or the fourth plane. I think. No, it's the first plane.
It's the first one.
If you've
Usually,
got 4 planes of matrix data. The first plane is the alpha channel.
Is that why you didn't work this test you did there? Because you were only
Yeah,
applying
it gave us all white because it just gave us full opacity.
Yeah.
I've just pulled in RGB to Luma, which has made it black and white. So now what I can do is I can do JIT dot greater than and set a threshold here of at val 0.75. So anything that's larger than 0.75 is going to be white, and everything that's beneath that is going to be black. So now we've got like a really high contrast black and white image. So if we send that into the matrix, so now depending on where I move my hand, we're going to get high data. And if I
glitch beats could be done like this, right? Easy,
So-
Tiger. Philip, I can see where you're going.
we can increase or decrease the threshold here. So that's like really, really, really white. That's really... So, okay, that's a little bit better. All right, so let's take that and party.
Hooked up to a hi-hat or something, and maybe...
I'm going to connect that to... Right, I've already lost track of everything that's going on here. So I'm going to... Hang on a minute. Let me change my webcam to the Brio. So can you see the Eurorack?
No. Oh, yes. Tiny. Hang on.
All right. So let's take the first. Let's use the first output of the PS8 for the trigger, and take. Oh, we're going to need a peak though. We're going to need to use the peak. So let's make a new. Let's give this. Let's call this peaky. let's make a, sorry, it's very small to see, jit.peak down here. Actually, I'm just going to take
Could you explain the peak again, what it does? Like
the jit.peak reads through, the jit.peak converts matrix data to an audio signal. That's how we're going to convert the pixel data to an audio signal.
Okay.
And we're going to read through that with a phaser. So
Couldn't you use what you already made though, Duncan? Can't you just take the output of this and plug it into what you were using before? So instead of having the line of black and white, you're just not using that. Instead, you're using this.
oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, you are. Okay, so let's just take that and put that in there. In fact, we don't need that. Let's see if there's anything coming out of this peak. But I'm going to use the phaser at a frequency of 1. Okay, yeah, it's working. So now I can trigger the Basimilus Iteratus alter with the webcam.
Hold your hand still for a bit and then you move it after a moment. Oh, can't hear anything. Oh,
Can you not hear anything?
You don't have it plugged into the DAC.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, good point. Okay, good. Guys.
It's very low. It's lower end of the octave range.
so if you hold your hand still for a bit and then just so we get a rhythmical pattern.
No, hold your hand still.
Oh, still, sorry.
And I'll move it a bit. Can you use your fingers and the light between your fingers?
This could be like a version of that game Operation when you have to go around the edge of the thing.
I think you got your music video sorted there and the.
Let's go at a faster rate. So probably to make that a little bit more rhythmically pleasing, we could use a sample and hold. So if we take that phaser, let's think about this. Let's use an SAH, give it an initial trigger value of 0.5. Take the phaser to trigger so the phaser that's reading through the matrix data is also going to trigger our sample and hold. The signal that comes out of the peak will get sampled and held at the rate of the phaser that's reading the, my God, my brain. All right, so let's connect that to that. Okay, I need to stop again.
You have to hold a bar. Do you have a barcode there that you can hold up against the camera? A barcode on your beer can or something.
Oh my God, I've got to do it now. You said it, haven't I? Yeah. Where's the? No, there is no barcode on it. I think it's because it's from a multi-pack.
Not for individual resale.
Exactly.
So even though this is supposed to be your break, I'm going to continue to ask questions. The way that worked, you hold your hand up and it turns certain bars black and certain bars white. So you have to hold your hand steady to have it any sort of
To create a static image.
exactly. So like every time you sweep your hand, I feel like the tempo should be speeding up, but it's not. Is there a way that you can get the like so the data is changing faster when you move your hand across? So can you somehow translate the data changing faster to change the rate at which it's being sampled?
What about the
Which-
change object?
and
Is
I'm
that-
not asking you to even do that. I'm trying to like think in my head if that's even possible.
So like if I let me go back to Max a second.
In basic terms, if there's a lot of change in video image equals fast tempo. If there's not much change at all, then slower tempo.
Yes.
So what I thought you meant was that, like, let's say that if my hand is more on the right hand side of the screen, and if it's more on the left hand side of the screen, this is quite difficult to do because I'm not entirely sure what. So RGB to Luma is converting the RGB values to luminance. So, and I don't really know how I'm generating more luminance because it looks more black.
Because of the white wall behind you, right?
But if I don't move, then there's no white wall. So if I put my hand up, I'm exposing more of the white wall. Basically, what I was going to say is that probably there might be a way if your webcam was lit a certain way, like you could query the contents of the matrix. So if there's a high number on this side and a low number on this side, which there is, so down here would be 0 on the x-axis, and here would be 1 on the y-axis, on the x-axis, then you could just basically query those numbers in that row and say scale that from 0 to 10,000, and then you could maybe set a low frequency of your oscillator here and a high frequency here.
Ned, a comment on the thread from Tim says that you're heading very towards being Jean-Michel Jarre.
I was watching Alex's live stream this morning, and he was making some full-on Jean-Michel Jarre stuff. The loop stayed in my head for about 3 hours afterwards. Go and watch it; it's really good. And I think maybe he's not here, is he?
So just back to the thing with the hand and moving the hand. I suppose you could build something which would be like an image sample and hold that you just take a snapshot. So you hold your hand up and you get the sequence going, and you can sort of work on the modular, and then you can just take another snapshot holding your hand up or something. Or if it would be of the audience, and maybe the movement of the audience would set the tempo of the song or something.
So probably the way to do that would be to, rather than just keep the thing is with a matrix, once you bang the top line of the matrix, the bangs continue all the way down. So probably the thing to do would be to...
Could you clear the matrix every time?
So I've disconnected this Q metro here, which is now giving me a still static image. So if I actually took 2 of these, let's monitor this one in real time so we can see what I'm doing. And then let's take a second one here, but use this one to take the snapshot when I send a bang. So if I find something I like, no, it's not going to work because... So effectively, we'd actually kind of need 2 instances, one to monitor and one to take the snapshot.
Don't you just need to do exactly what you're doing further down the line?
Actually, I've just thought, actually, all I need to do is just create a gate. So I just make a gate here. Oh, and spell it wrong, obviously, gate. But rather than that going there, that goes in there. So we basically just open and close the gate for the bangs. No? No, perhaps not. Oh, okay. All right. So there, so gate open, gate closed. Right. So let's go. Okay. So I can, okay. Now I've taken a snapshot of that. Hang on. That's not That's not right.
And then you could automate that. So like every 4 bars or something, it just takes a new snapshot automatically, depending on what
Yes.
you're doing on the room. Yeah.
I'm not sure why that hasn't worked though, because it's still sending me this.
I think, isn't it because your phaser's so?
That looks like that Square Pusher album cover.
It does look a bit like Go Plastic, doesn't it?
Yes, that's the one.
I love that album. So that hasn't worked. It's because I'm using this. It's because I'm using this sample and hold thing I tried earlier. So
That's right.
where I've lost track of where I'm reading from. So I'm reading from that. I don't even need. Right, what's going on here? I'm lost. I'm really lost. So what am I reading from to get that gate? And where is that even? That's coming from that.
Aren't you reading? Change the image again and see if the pattern.
But I'm not even sending anything out. I don't think I need this one here. Oh no, I did need that because that was the one with the lower dimension. So that's the, which one's the one that's reading? Oh my God. So which one is reading that? Is it this one? Yeah. So that's the, okay. So, but I haven't plugged that to the DAC. Oh my God, I'm lost. That's it. I'm lost. I'm done.
How is that possible? That it? How is that even possible?
I don't know. I don't know. I think I actually need a break. Someone else do it now. Oh, Jamie Cato. Hi, mate. It's been a while. He's in the chat.
I'd just like to give a round of applause to Duncan that he had 4 people all screaming questions at him at the same time and was trying to appease all 4 of those questions at the same time live in front of an audience with Max and a modular.
That's kind of what happens though. Like when you get into Max, someone goes, yeah, but can you do that? And you sort of go, yeah. And then you need to go and do it. Otherwise you can't sleep at night. That's basically like you start having nightmares. I didn't solve that problem. But this is I've lost track now. I've totally lost track.
Yeah, I'd say this has been one of the more impressive performances
Okay.
I've ever seen.
Okay. But like
you had essentially what it is you were playing the piano and you had 4 different people saying play this song, no, play this song, and you were playing them all at the same time.
That would be a pretty interesting. If someone said to you, play Wonderwall and Toccata and Fugue,
Yes,
and Smells Like Teen Spirit at the same time on the piano.
I feel like that's theoretically
if you
probably
can do
not
that, then
possible,
that's you're special.
And then also, can you do it while you do a handstand?
Yeah, and whilst cooking a lasagna. Yeah, no, I definitely need to stop. My plan was that I was going to save this patch and put it on Patreon, but it's an absolute mess.
Oh, do it anyway.
But it's like it's none of it makes
just
any
call
sense.
it warts and all. It's just everything.
Look, there's we had the Mona Lisa. She's gone now.
Put her
Me
back
waving
in.
my hand here. All this crap. None of it makes any sense. But I think I've worked out the essence of the Mona Lisa's smile. I think I've worked it out.
Maybe this could be the quiz. So throw it up on the Patreon, and whoever can fix this and make it work gets like a soft toy or something. Or I know the broken rat pedal that you tried to fob off on me from the last quiz.
Oh yeah, well I'm not sure I can give that up because that's the doorstep to the doors of my living room.
But even
enough.
even if the patch doesn't work as it is, I think this opens up a whole lot of really interesting ideas, especially when you mix it with one of your more recent videos where you used, I don't even remember exactly how it worked. I built it. The one where you're using an image to control an oscillator. So if you then took that image and did something similar, kind of clipping it to be black and white, and then used that information to control some other part of the patch. So you have this image generating the sound, and then the image also being scaled down to a point where it's on or off. And then that's controlling a drum beat. And it just like how far you can take a couple of the key concepts here is pretty insane.
Yeah, I mean, really, essentially, it's all just ones and zeros and floating point numbers and everything in between. And like, it's all just lists of numbers or arrays of numbers and sequences of numbers. And what you choose to do, they're presented to you in different forms. So, the jit.noise object is essentially a random number generator, but it does it like really quickly. So it's kind of like you could create a different way around that of like creating a sequencer and sort of creating a patch that says index through all the items in this sequencer and randomize the numbers. And that's one way to do it. Or you can create a jit.noise object and just say it's got 16 columns and one row, and you just bang it and it generates random numbers. But to query all of those numbers and extrapolate all of those numbers is another. It's kind of like doing it in reverse to the previous example I just said. But what's good about it is that you can use those numbers as like coordinate data. So, you could, and that's basically what I did in that video, is that I created like a random table of numbers that was essentially a wave table for the oscillator, but also a collection of coordinates for a 3D shape.
So Ned, I think that what you built on the video, that video you're talking about here, the video object that you created a couple of weeks ago, I don't want to put it on the spot, but if you opened that up and plugged the DAC into that as an import source, just to control some of the noise on the geometry, would that be worth doing, or would that be really pushing it too far?
Sorry, say it again. Say it again.
Say your video synthesizer max patch from a couple of weeks ago, and then combine that with a DAC object with input coming from the modular
To send stuff out.
Yeah, send something to the object to create some noise on the geometry on the matrix.
Are you sure I should save this patch?
Yeah.
It's an absolute shit show. I'm going to call it the Mona Lisa. Although, sadly, she is not included in the patch. In fact, I don't think a lot of this stuff probably won't even.
I think you should be the Mono Lisa.
The Mono Lisa. Has anyone used that as a band name yet?
Has
If you had
anyone
like
used
two Mono Lisas, is it Stereo Lisa? Oh, hi, Lisa. Right, so let's go to open recent patch matrix set YouTube. Okay, let's see if this still even works. I don't need. Oh no, I do need to keep the.
I haven't checked if it is available. I don't dare, but SoundCloud Van Damme would be pretty good, wouldn't it? Sorry about that.
All right, what am I doing here? I can't remember how any of this works. Oh, it works. Wow, it still works. Yeah. So what am I doing?
So where? Okay, let me try and remember. This creates a set of that. If you go over the sequence there, where you've got the dots, and you can change the order, put it in, lock the patch for a second, and just draw another sequence over it. So effectively, my understanding of this, it's creating a set of shapes for that geometry based on what you're doing in that grid. So,
okay, so nearly.
And what you're doing there is you're iterating through it with a pattern. So maybe use the input from the ES8 expert sleepers to control which way that does that, or something, or maybe just offset some of the geometry so you have some noise on the. I mean, put it into like loop line or something, so it's a bit more.
Okay,
Well,
so
yeah.
I just need to clarify a few things. So when I click this generate frames button, that's going to create 16 frames of random noise data, which gets stored in this JIT.matrix set.
Yeah, and then you're just going through it in order. That thing.
And
with
I'm indexing it through from this sequencer here. So if I was to do something like this, then we're going to go from 0 to 15 and index all of those frames in order. But if I just go like that, then we only index one frame.
Yeah, so control that from the Euro rack, just as a
control.
ES8 only goes to the Euro rack. You can't.
I could do it. I tell you what, we could do it with Pamela's new workout. So we swap the phaser for a ramp coming in from Pamela's new workout.
Okay.
So if I go to Pamela's new workout.
Say, Gus, is the DAC, is that, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. There's
works.
no way of, how do you interpret data then coming from the ES9 or the ES8?
So the ES8, I'm pretty sure, I thought it was you could only send CV out of your computer into the modular. You can't, I didn't think you could send CV from the modular into your computer with just the ES8. You need one of the expanders. I could be wrong on that.
I think ES9 is fine. That can go both ways, I think.
Yes, ES9 definitely can.
Is there no ramp? Is there no upward ramp on Pamela's new workout?
It has an LFO, doesn't it? Type thing in it.
Is it maybe you have to set the width to 100 on a triangle?
Haven't you just got a normal LFO that you can just use, like a sort of dedicated LFO?
Do you have maths? Can that do that sort of thing?
Okay, let's do it with maths. Okay, so let's take a cycle. Hang on, let me switch my camera so that the folks at home can see what we're doing.
Is maths as good as everyone says? I've never tried it. I don't own one.
I think so.
Yes, it is.
All right, so I've made a very slow. Okay, so I'm going to have to zoom out a bit here. So I'm going to do it down here. So let's make an ADC on channel 1, and let's have a look at this maths curve that's coming in. There we go. There's our maths curve. Can you see that, everyone?
Perfect.
Yes.
So that's the opposite of DAC is ADC.
Yeah, so ADC, audio digital converter, DAC, digital audio converter. So in and out, or ADC for in, DAC for out. So I've plugged in a maths curve into the ES8 input 1, and that is the maths curve right there down here. So if I change that a bit, so now it's just ramping up really, really, really slowly. And if I set it to the middle, then it should be a straight ramp. Yeah.
Perfect.
So
I was wrong, Alan. It does. You can send CV from the ES8 into your computer.
Yes, that's what I'm doing right now. Yeah.
This is so useful. Just think about, you could send multiple sources. Gus, like with this, you could have them all mapped to different parts in your patch and control it completely from your modular.
I don't know why I thought you could only send it out.
No, you can send it in and out. So I'm going to swap the phaser that's reading the sequencer with this maths curve here. Okay, so let's put that up there. So this is our maths curve. And if I change that, then it's going to read according to the rate of the maths curve. So I can go very fast like that and read through all of that record. And we can also go at exponential curves, which is interesting. And indeed, do a rise and fall. It's very satisfying looking at these maths curves.
Love it.
Very, very nice. It really is. But who was it that said that they weren't sure? Was it you, Phil? You weren't
Well,
sure
I didn't say I wasn't sure. I've just never tried it, and I never had. I obviously don't own one. but I know it's the most popular Eurorack module.
So now you could
It's a
take
very
that,
silky experience.
you can take that same curve and modulate some sort of sound in the Eurorack so it would sync up with the visual, right?
Yeah, let's do that now. So let's take. But I'm okay. So I'm gonna have to use a malt. I'm gonna get a malt, swap that out, and I'll put a malt in here. Where's that coming from? From there. And let's go with the. So, I don't know if that's.
You might want to change the value, the slide up and slide down, like value based on the. Would that work? Because the slide up value is how it's.
I mean, it's.
Or just take the end of cycle from maths and trigger a kick drum.
Yeah. Oh, this has got so much potential.
Okay, I'm going to need to use a mixer, so let's put that there. Take the sum out of here. And then let's... What was it? We're triggering... Yeah, so... God, my brain's all a fizz right now. There we go. This is some of the best shit I've ever made in my life.
Sounds like Burnin' by Daft Punk. Oh, it did for a bit.
Eurorack's brilliant, isn't it? It's just
It's
great
all
for Gabba.
brilliant.
Okay, so don't do this, but I just want to ask the question, but don't go off on a tangent. But can it actually read, can the matrix, can you do something so it can read actual Excel spreadsheets? So you could take the annual report from a really boring company and turn it into
I probably there's probably a way to do that, yes, because it's just tables of data. I think it would probably, you know what, I'm just going to have to Google it now.
Let's go and get our tax returns from last year.
do Donald Trump's tax returns.
Importing Excel files, CSV files into Max MSP. There is a thread on the Max forum discussing this very subject.
Actually,
So it is possible. Well, I'm assuming it's possible because this
just
thread
imagine.
is
Just
very
imagine Gantt charts, like really boring schedules, and you use that to build your sequences with. So you take whatever project you're working on at work.
Yeah, you could. It's all just ones and zeros and floating point numbers, and anything that's like contains all of that data can basically be extrapolated and turned into something else.
there's a great question from Nomo Popo on the thread saying, how about controlling the playhead of a granular sampler with the maths? What's the sample?
Yes, that's. I tell you what, that's something that I could talk about right now with some of the new features that there are in Max. So give me a second whilst I think about how I'm going to do this. So I am going to switch to. I'm going to switch. No, how am I going to do this? Sorry, I'm thinking out loud about techie stuff. Right, so let's switch the audio to the Tascam Model 12. That's fine. Okay, so a popular choice for me has always been the combination of the buffer object, which I'm going to call the buffer, and the groove object, which I'm going to give the same name as the buffer. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. So the buffer is where I'm going to store the sound. The groove object is where I'm going to read the sound. I'm going to use a waveform object here with the same name as the buffer at buffer name of the buffer. And then if I load a sound...
That was just at buffer. You didn't do buffer name.
Oh, bloody hell. Waveform at buffer name the buffer. Oh, now I'm doing a space. Thanks, John. So, and then if I do prepend replace and create a drop file and then go to something like the browser here and pull in the Cherokee sample, now that is loaded in the buffer. So we've got our sound loaded. And normally with Groove, let me just do a live gain here. Let's see if we can get this. I don't know how many channels that is. It's one. Okay, so let's see if we can do this. And then I need a sig to say signal of 1 to say play at the original tempo. And then I'm going to make a message start loop. And maybe... You guys hear that? Did everyone hear that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is kind of the more traditional way of playing samples in Groove, is that you would specify the transposition of the sample with the sig object. So if I wanted it to play twice as fast, I'd give it a value of 2. If I wanted it to play half the speed, I'd give it 0.5. If I wanted it to play backwards, I'd say minus. But with 8.3, with Max 8.3, they introduced this thing called phase groove. And what phase groove does is that it allows you to read through the contents of the buffer with Groove, but with a phaser. So if I made a phaser here and said phase at 1 hertz. So now that's reading through. You can think of it as the phasers going round and round and reading through the sample at the specified frequency. But we don't need to use a phaser. We could use a cycle. Cycle's going to oscillate from -1 to 1. See what that sounds like. Okay. All right, so basically what I'm getting at is that we can use an ADC on channel 1 and take an input from the maths, take a maths curve, and use that to cycle through the phase of that sample instead of a phaser. Let's see if that's working. So let me just switch to the Brio again. What's happening here? Oh, okay. Let me check. I'm still using... Okay. Sorry, wrong input. That was an output. There we go. So now I've got the math signal coming in and I can plug that into this phase groove and read through that sample using the math curve. It's in fact, we could make a use a sum of the math curve. So look at that lovely math curve. Look at that. That's just so satisfying. So that's the sum That's the sum of all mats go.
Could you send a sequence in instead, like the CV from whatever you might have, the Variegate 8 Plus?
Yes.
So it will sort of rhythmically move through it.
The potential with this is off the scale. You do
Okay.
it for,
Okay, so that's a channel from the voltage block.
Can you run it a bit slower? Oh, it will just hold that rather than playing it. Is that right?
Yeah, so it needs to. So the whole point of phase groove is that it's reading through the buffer. Where if it's a static signal, then it's just going to kind of make that noise. That's why something like
You could run the sequence.
I can add a load of slides. I can add some.
Yeah, you could
slides
slew
to,
it,
like,
yeah.
All of the. I can't remember how to do it.
if you plug the Variegate into the mass slew,
Well, yeah, and indeed, as you say, we could
Just add a kick drum and then we're done.
Yeah, man, just stick a kick drum.
Yeah, and then strobe light, and then
Core.
Oh, this hasn't worked. How do you do slewing and map? Oh, I've got it in cycle. That's right.
you have to plug it into the one on the left-hand side of the mass, I think it is. See, the furthest top.
I
left.
think maybe it's not working. Might be doing it
Okay.
wrong. Yeah, sorry. What?
You have to plug into the top left of the mass for the slew. Plug the signal from the Variegate into the top left of the mass, and then take the channel 1 output, I guess, into
Oh, I see.
your ES8. And then you can control the slew through the. You might have to put the cycle on. I'm not sure if you have to put the cycle on as well.
No, that hasn't worked. Sorry. I'm just going to stick with. Right, everything's suddenly screwed. Okay, that's fine. That's a good time to take a break. Another break. Ugh.
This is epic, mate.
Well, yeah. Basically, Max MSP is awesome. Everyone go and buy it. The best program.
Can you show your Eurorack again
Yeah.
on the big screen?
Like this. Put me into speaker view. Spotlight for everyone. There we go. How's that? Has that worked?
Perfect.
Do you ever use the dual sampler as a sort of granular thing that you set a really short length and then you sort of scan through the sample by changing the start point?
I have, and I don't really like it that much. Actually, the thing that I really like to do with it is to put it in looping like that. So now that's looping, and then so you don't really even need to trigger it. I think it just starts oscillating. The sample just basically starts playing and loops. But then I like to send like a gate into the reverse, so it kind of ping pongs from playing forwards and backwards, and then maybe the same gate but slewed into the volt per octave, so that the pitch kind of slews with the forward and reverse to kind of do like a sort of record scratch type thing. That's probably the only thing I do with it. This is actually one of the modules that I'm thinking of getting rid of.
Really? I love it. I use it all the time.
It's really great for recording like really, really long sounds. You can record like, an hour onto the SD card. and then just have a sample on there that's an hour long and jump to it like wherever you want with this. Just jump to a specific point. But it's not, I don't think it's that good for like granular stuff, not compared to this. So I think for granular, you've really got to work with short samples. If you want to work with a long sample, it's going to get tricky, and you probably want to go to something like pull stretch or something like that. But as a kind of storage system for really long samples that you can like, it's really nice to just dial in whatever sound you want and then start firing it off and screw around with it and send CV into it. But for granular stuff, I'm not so sure. Yeah.
Morphogene is there's a setting in the text file where you can switch the SOS knob to a dry wet, and then you can essentially be constantly recording into it. So you could have your sound and it just like to use it like that. That's been the way I've gotten the most out of Morphogene. Like after a while, when you load samples into something, it's just kind of like, okay, I've pitched it up and down as much as I possibly can. I'm kind of bored with it at this point.
Yeah, I actually kind of quite like using the Morphogene kind of like that by just not writing into a reel, but just writing into the RAM. Take the card out, write into the RAM in real time, and then whenever I'm done, it's erased. But the thing is, it's like, it's so hard to find the green light so that it's playing at the normal speed. I did write to them and I said, like, is there any way that you could make an option in the firmware so that when the pitch knob is all the way up, that's full speed, that's normal speed, and when it's all the way down, that's full speed in reverse? And they were like, we're not sure why you would want that. And I was like,
and it's interesting you say that, Duncan, because I think there's an actual issue with it. I have the NerdSec controlling it. I have everything dialed in perfectly to where, between the offset and the actual knob itself, I'll set everything. So the NerdSec, that's rock solid CV, and it's in the green light. And I'll change the CV on the NerdSec and then go back to where I originally was. I know that the CV is the exact same, but when it snaps back on the Morphogene, it's not in the green anymore.
Yeah, the green is such a small window.
Yeah.
It's very
doesn't
frustrating.
that depend on the attenuator that you're using on the way in? Because I've tried that using not a NerdSec, but I use the pressure points often to set different, set configurations for the Morphogene, and it's pretty reliable. But then you have to make sure that the attenuator's spot on. But 100% you're right about trying to find the green randomly. It's like trying to set the temperature in your shower right between hot and cold. Like
the way I'm using it would be the exact same as pressure points, and I'll switch it out of the green so it'll go somewhere else. And then when I go back to the exact same CV that I know is green, it won't be green anymore. I think some of the modules actually, like, I don't know enough about them to say exactly what it would be, but I think there's actually like an actual issue with it.
I think it's a great idea though, Ned, like writing to them, because that would be a no-brainer. Just something that just brings it back to pitch to,
I think it would be quite good that there was an option in the firmware, so when the dial is all the way to the right, it's in the green, and when it's all the way to the left, it's in the green, but in reverse. So you can't go up in pitch, you can only come down from original pitch as an option. Or like maybe you could hold shift and turn the knob, and it gives you like a wider window of where green is. Because I've spent so much time like trying to find green, and then I find it and I let go of the knob and I'm not in green anymore.
Yeah,
and I want to throw the thing out the window. I don't want to do that. I like it very much. I need to take a piss, so someone else needs to be host whilst I'm doing that. Who wants to do that? Just talk amongst yourselves.
Bye.
So what have you got there, Philip? Oh. You didn't tell me you're an artist as well. Like a...
Is that going to be the picture for your sequencer?
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect.
So Philip, like your studio's evolved. I know you're in a new space there. So what have you got set up now? Did you buy some new keyboard racks there?
Yes, so I bought it turned out I wanted to put shelving on the wall, but it turns out that the struts in these walls are not evenly spaced, and I don't think my brain could cope with unevenly spaced shelving. So I bought a Jasper stand in the end, and then I made this webcam. The cable is not very long, but I made some, I don't know if we can see them there, with a lot of the sort of boxes. I just made some shelves of pine board that just holds those sort of desktop things. And then I bought the cheapest thing on Amazon, this shelving that can just take loads of weight. That sort of just, holds stuff for now. I don't know if that will stay forever, but it was a cheap solution that just sort of solves it for now. But yeah, I think the thing that I'm most excited about now, it was after the conversation last time when User Friendly was talking about the old Mackie mixer, which I think we got the same one. And you just take anything like a clean sound from Ableton or something and just run it through that mixer. They're really cheap. And then just tweak the EQ on it. And it sounds like, most of the time it sounds crap, but all of a sudden you just like find the sweet spot, and it just sounds so good. And I've just been recording loads and loads and loads of samples through it now. I just used that thing that comes with Ableton, this sort of kick drums, and it's got some sort of selection of percussion instruments that are sort of synthesized. And just taking that kick drum, for example, and just run it through the Mackie mixer and just like tweaking the EQ and doing the wrong thing. You turn the bass down and you turn up the mid range, and all of a sudden it just like, I don't know what happens. It just like sounds good to my ears.
Is it just EQ, or does it have a compressor in it of some kind?
It does not have a compressor, but it was just User Friendly was saying that, because I knew that the mixer was known for, it's really nice overdriving it, and it's got a gain and it's got the level, but that's not where the nice drive is. If it's just you just turn up the EQ too much, and that I don't know what it does. It's they're super cheap, and it just sounds good to my ears if you just get the settings right.
Ned's back.
Yeah.
After
I'm just responding to a message.
You have been put under a lot of pressure today, mate, and you've handled it like a champ.
Thanks, mate. Has anyone... I'm just chatting to a friend about that Industrial Light and Magic documentary on Disney+. It's awesome. Watch it. It confirms that George Lucas is in fact a genius and a bit of a C-bomb at the same time. It's a brilliant documentary. Did I already mention that earlier? Did we talk about that earlier?
I don't think so.
Before we went live feed, we are still live. Maybe it's time to round up the live feed now. We're kind of strayed somewhat from the topic.
Yeah, okay, well, yes, all right, I'm happy to wrap up there. So I hope that was fun for everyone. I didn't get as stressed out as I thought I might. With all you guys going, do this, do that. Can you make it do this? Can you make it do that? Make it do that. Can you do this? Can you do... hopefully everyone in the chat, what's the name of the documentary? I think it's just called... I don't know what it's called, but it's on Disney Plus right now. I think it's called like Light and Magic. That's what it's called, Light and Magic on Disney Plus. Great 6-part series about the history of ILM and Lucasfilm. Anyway, so hopefully everyone in the chat had a nice time watching me navigate that absolute spaghetti western. Okay, anyone want to say anything?
Nope. Everyone is frozen. Suspense.
I think he's just frozen at a really bad
Did
time.
he freeze again?
So that's the ultimate uncomfortable silence right there.
How to make the episode really long.
We still got people watching. Welcome to the Ned Rush channel without Ned Rush, just with us guys.
Well, I think you're the host now, Alan, so you can stop the streaming if you want. Or we can wait.
If I knew how
If he
to do
comes
that,
back.
John, I would be doing that now, but I have no idea. Oh, we go. Stop live stream. Are we all? Should I do that? I found the button. Here we go.
Yeah, we're going to
stop
blame it on you.
Right. Thank you, everybody. I don't know where Ned's gone, but we're going to stop this feed. So thank you for everybody for.
Oh, there he is.
Oh,
Oh,
there
he's
he is.
back. It's back. It's a
Sorry,
car crash.
another internet issue.
I was about to end your live feed for you, Ned, like as your backup man, but
Thanks.
you can do it yourself now.
Thanks, everyone. It's time to go now. Well, we're not going to go. We're probably going to hang out a bit longer, aren't we? But this was Compress It Like an Idiot live. See you next time. Subscribe on Patreon if you want to join in the Zoom chats and stuff. Yeah. Say goodbye, everyone.